I am comfortable.
Yeah.
I am comfortable.
Nice.
Nathan, are you comfortable?
Yeah.
All right.
We're good to go.
We're good to go. Hey guys, so yeah, thanks for joining me on this podcast. It's the first time I'm doing this actually. So yeah.
Have you named the podcast and what you're gonna?
I have named it.
Oh.
I'm gonna call it the Now Media.
Oh.
Yeah.
The Now Media.
The Now Media.
So how did you come up with that name?
I guess it was like a bit of a, like I was just thinking, okay, so what's sort of like current, like what and what touches on you know, like I guess the social parts of our lives, you know, and I just thought about things like our broadsheet, timeout and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then I was like, what about, you know, like now, like current times? And I was like, okay, the now like has a lot of relevance, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think you need to live in the now, right? You can't live in yesterday and you can't live in tomorrow. You need to live in the now.
Yeah, definitely.
So a lot of relevance.
Yeah, definitely. Good. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess like yes. So one of the first topics that I thought that that I could just start off with, I guess it's a rather safe one, I guess, to start with, and I called it basically the safe path. The safe path basically is, okay, well, what is the sort of like path that, you know, that has been ingrained into our heads, you know, like, and that sort of like knowledge was like passed down from like our parents, for instance, you know, like I know that the notion of our parents, and, you know, like because of their upbringing and stuff, you know, especially like they've had like tough upbringings to actually get here to Australia, right? Where they've got where they have nothing except for their clothes, you know, on their backs and stuff, and also us as kids, right?
Yeah.
So I guess like their mentality is basically to, okay, like, you know, like work very, very hard, get good grades, do well in school, get a good job, get a house, raise a family, and, you know, bingo, you know.
Yeah.
But I guess like with everything in life, like not everything is certain. Yeah, and I guess like, you know, you guys, you know, can probably see that from your own experiences, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you know, I wouldn't say I'm the true reflection of, you know, the my parents and their safe path journey, because, you know, I've done my own things here and there, but, you know, I if I look around and look at myself and a bit of my career and education and stuff, you know, definitely a lot of that stuff has been ingrained in me, has been passed on, you know. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
How about you, Nathan?
I don't know. So I see a different view. The way how my parents, because my parents weren't the regular refugees. They didn't go through the, you know, the boats and you know, the Malaysia and then start from scratch. We got sponsored by a family. So when that family or country took us in, we had a group of family that looked after us, or my family. So when I was born, being in a European country, born in Finland, the government and the hospitality is a lot different to what other people have in Malaysia, because everybody was compacted in such a small country. And from the Malaysia, they may have gone to different other countries like US or, you know, or Australia, waiting to be accepted. So there may have been a waiting period for them. But my parents, from my understanding, when I spoke to them, they had an education. So they had a life before the Vietnam War. They just had to flee from the war and dropped everything in order to survive. So they didn't live a hard life. Like, they lived a comfortable life. They knew what was ingrained in them, their belief system. So when they moved to another country,
That's what they pass on to you.
Yeah, they passed on to me what they believed was, you know, was right. And they always tell me when I was young, you know, you should always do this and always do that. But then when I look where I am now and what they told me before, they were doing that just to guide me on a path where I don't destroy myself. So it's not more so to kind of make me turn into what they want me to be. They were just guiding me to make sure that I don't do the bad stuff that they know can corrupt other people.
Yeah. So it's basically like from their experiences, they're also like protecting you.
Yeah, it's a security blanket, right?
Yeah.
You know, they're making sure you're safe.
Yeah.
They're making sure you do what they know, you know, and what they know is right?
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I used to get in trouble a lot when I was young. You know, we were curious, we were doing things, and then they used to say something like, "Wait until you have kids, then you'll understand." And then now that I'm older, you kind of reflect back on what they were trying to tell us, and like we're trying to now do and teach our kids. You know, how can you find the balance between, you know, helping them grow and, you know, think for themselves, and not, you know, intrude and, you know, ingrain what your own belief system to restrict them from you know, their potential.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, like definitely very valid points, and yeah, I mean, like I feel that you've elaborated it quite well, you know. Yeah, like it's one of the things where I also wonder if, like, you know, from our experiences, if that's something that we also pass on to our kids as well, you know. Like, yeah, like I know that we obviously don't want, you know, like kids, you know, our you know, our kids to fail. So obviously, from our experience, we sort of shield them from all that danger and that failure as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think it's also about, you know, our parents having, you know, coming from, like you said, Nathan, a war-torn country. But you know, your parents had a different path. My parents had a different path. They were refugees. They came over here, and they were trying to build that certainty. You know, they didn't have a lot of certainty. They were trying to build the security, that umbrella, and that. Obviously, all those lessons get passed on to us. You know, have that safe path. Know your route. Know the job you're going to get. All that sort of stuff. But now that we've grown up in, you know, 2018, in the last 20, 30 years, it's all about, to me now, it's all about uncertainty. You know, variety, surprises, holidays. You know, having a bit of variety. They never got that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm learning a lot now from a newer generation that I'd like to pass on to my kids as well. But the lessons are still there. The lessons of, you know, certainty, security, you know, comfort, all that stuff, I still have in my head, you know. So I don't think it's going to go away. And I'm definitely sort of like 50-50 with my kids. I give them a bit of certainty. I give them a bit of instruction, but I also challenge them. You know, I also make sure that they know what's wrong, what's right. They ask the questions rather than get the answers, you know. So, yeah, it's a funny thing right now, but I think the newer generation, like us, I think, you know, are we the newer generation? I think, you know, probably half of it aren't always, you know, going to be completely different, but we, you know, a lot of the lessons still get passed on to our kids.
Yeah, definitely. Very, very good points there.
I think our parents only play like the initial, I guess, early stages of our life.
Yeah.
Once we start school, it's our friends and our teachers who define the way how we turn out in the future, because they will, you know, teach us, you know, certain things or certain subjects in certain life. Even till now, when I'm at work, I always rely on older people to, you know, as a mentoring and asking them, you know, what have they done or what can they do to share their knowledge and, you know, to help me, guide me in the last, you know, in the next, say, 10 years in fatherhood, in retirement, all that kind of stuff. So what I see is when we were in school, our friends, like, you know, you, me, Paul, we hanged around, you know, quite a bit, and, you know, and we turned out okay. There are other people who had other friends, but they may have turned out, you know, in another path, you know, like a destructive path at the time. But then they've then rerouted their lives, you know, and gone, you know, achieved, they saw, you know, what they were in the past. So either their parents had helped them out, because, you know, we lived in Cabramatta. It was really bad back then. You know? Our parents had to adapt and thinking, wow, drugs, you know, we never had this issue, you know, back in probably in Vietnam, you know, what do we do here, you know? And now that people introduce certain, I guess, destructive things that can influence us, they need to protect us and find ways to protect us, you know? You hear documentaries about, you know, Asian families. It's impacting Asian because of, I think, the culture around our area. It came out as like a little drug hub, and that then made us the way how we are, and we saw how things were, the junkies around, and we didn't like that. So then we kind of thought our parents are doing it hard as well. They had to learn like English. They had to learn, you know, the culture in Australia. Everything was just a complete change to them. It's just like us. Everything's a complete change to us as the world is evolving. You know, we evolved in around technology. So, you know, people are now getting bullied around, you know, and trolling and all that. So we're going through that, whereas our parents went through the physical or emotional abuse, you know, or other people around, you know. Now, like,
so when I was abusing the internet back in the days, it was you know, my mum or, you know, my uncle would just turn off the computer, or you know, or disconnect the internet, or, you know, or just, you know, don't just ban me altogether. And that was like the way that they learned how to, you know, school and discipline and teach. But now, you know, do you do that? maybe, or do you give them the lessons, you know, or do you ask them the questions, you know, do you challenge them? And I think the way of teaching is different now as well.
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah, it's evolving.
Yeah, like I see that there are like a lot of interesting points where now like the method of teaching, I guess, like, you know, like young kids and stuff these days is like has changed quite a fair bit. Like I know that a lot of the teaching like I think a lot of it comes from like a lot of external factors as well. So a lot of what you see on the internet these days, I think, is sort of like filtering through to like the kids.
Yeah.
So a lot of the influences or like I guess a lot of the teachings that are coming from like parents and stuff, like, you know, I think that kids that are younger these days are also like challenging their notions as well. So yeah, I mean, like it's a very sort of like strange sort of like times that we're living in today, you know, where like things are just constantly changing, and us as individuals and human beings, we're just forced to adapt, you know. Yeah, like I think the mindset of having a traditional sort of approach as well, you know, like so even though it's good to have like traditional values and stuff, but you also got to be mindful of like thinking forward as well and adapting with life.
That's true. That's true. And back in the days, your parents was who gave you the authority, who gave you direction, who gave you, you know, what's wrong, what's right, what do you do next, what do you wake up to, all that sort of stuff, you know, and then became some of your friends. Now 2018, it's everything. You know, it's all your social media, it's your external, it's your school, it's your friends, it's your podcast, it's everything, right? And you don't know what's right, what's wrong, and you know, a lot of those, I think those lessons that we were learnt still needs to be instilled in our kids, you know? Yeah. Because in that way they can make the right decisions rather than get led different directions all the time, you know? Yeah.
Like it's interesting where like, you know, our parents, they sort of like teach us like what they know, and like and given, you know, with their travels and everything like that, like I know that my parents and stuff, like, you know, they probably haven't seen like much of the world as much as like we have growing up and stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
But you know that they basically just do their best that they can to sort of guide you, you know, as you grow up. But then like it's kind of interesting that as you grow up you start to realize that, okay, well, maybe what you were taught, you know, growing up may not have necessarily been the best way, but then like but when you're a young adult, you sort of like think, okay, oh wow, you know what your parents are saying is wrong, but then
you just sort of brush it off as well.
But as you get older, you then appreciate the words that your parents pass on to you, because like you then understand that like what they're passing on to you was you know, based on what they know at the best point at that given time, you know.
I think it's the way how our parents try to communicate with us. So they try to communicate through, I guess, doing things, because they know that when they talk to us, we often ignore it. It's just like the workplace, you know. So it's hard for us to relate our emotions and to associate what they're trying to say with us experiencing it.
Yep.
So once we hit to the stage, then we'll you know, we'll reflect back and say, hang on, you know, this is what they told us. This is what now you kind of understand. But then at the same time, you're not actually using what they had at the time. You have to then, I guess, conform to associate the external factors as well, and say, you know, now the world has changed and has this additional stuff. What can you do that you've learned from them? And, you know, incorporate what the external factors now, and then to teach to your kids, and then that will change as well as time goes on.
You know what? And our generation now is at a perfect time for that. You know, we've got those old values, those traditions that's filtered down. We've got the modern, you know, way of working and way of thinking as well, and we're that hybrid, you know, state where, you know, we can really, really shape the new generation, because the new generation, a lot of these lessons get, you know, diluted or filtered and lost, you know. And I wouldn't say they're all lost, but definitely, you know, like talking to your kids these days, they have no idea of the last 30, 40, 50 years, you know. So I think it's a good time that we're living right now.
Yeah, definitely.
But it depends on what you want to teach your kids. So I know my parents have traditional values, so they want to tell us in a way where, or my grandkids, that, you know, we came from Vietnam, we're like a Vietnamese people, you know, and our cultures did this and that, and, you know, doing all this Chinese New Year stuff. You don't get that in Australia. So they're scared that when we use or too much Australian culture, we're going to lose or who we truly are. So that kind of doesn't really identify us in you know, what we are.
Yeah, and that's important, culture and heritage, you know. I have that connection back to the culture and heritage, and And I try to do that as much as I can, once a year or twice a year, or become that vegetarian, or go visit that temple, or go to that celebration.
Yeah.
I try to do that, and I bring the kids on that journey as well.
Yeah. Like, I think it's like very good as well. Like, I know that here in Cabramatta, like, we have like things like Chinese New Year, like for me every year, like my cousins and I, we would go to the temples, and we'd offer like our prayers and stuff.
Yeah.
And Moon Festival here in like September as well is like also a good time for like the community to come together and celebrate.
Yeah. It's and modern society, especially now in Fairfield and Cabramatta, it's amazing, like how much culture and heritage it's been ingrained into this place, and so that we can live and breathe it still. And that's a reflection of where we are and the area. It's amazing.
Definitely. So I guess like just growing up, like I guess carving out your own paths. Like I know for me in particular, like I know that my parents basically wanted me to be like a doctor or so, but like I knew very
a doctor. I don't know, what is it? A doctor, a lawyer,
optometrist,
opton.
Yeah.
What else? Pharmacist.
Yeah.
And there's one more. An engineer. An engineer, right? So
my parents didn't thought engineer as one of our.
I don't think my parents knew what the definition of engineer meant.
Really?
To be honest, yeah.
I think they call it. I can't remember in Vietnamese. Is it gisu or is that a specialist or something? Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be either one of those to really tick those boxes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know for me in particular, like growing up, and I knew like early, like when I was in year 8 and year 9, like I started hanging around with like I started to sort of veer off and mucked around a lot in high school.
Yeah.
And I sort of knew then and there, like, okay, well, I think I'm sort of like slipping in terms of my grades, compared to like my brother who was like, like getting good consistent marks and stuff. Like my marks are like starting to dip and stuff. And yeah, like, so basically when I was like reaching like the beginning of year 11, I knew that like things were just like taking a bit of a turn for me, and I knew that I had to get my shit together. Like, but I guess the notion of like being a doctor was like pretty much out of my reach and all that. And it wasn't really my interest as well at that time. So my interest was like basically computers and playing video games. And like I played a shitload of like Quake and like
StarCraft, man, come on.
StarCraft as well, yeah.
Warcraft and StarCraft.
Yeah, so there's a handful of
basics.
There's a handful of people in my high school that that I can thank for that. But
and are you still doing it now?
I am.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, mate.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that.
Nah, but but basically just growing up, like my marks wasn't great. Like I didn't hit like 90s UAI or anything like that, So, but I managed to like somehow land myself into UTS somehow. I think it was like through the what's it called, the hardship sort of schemes. I forgot what the name was called.
Disadvantage
scheme.
Yeah.
Oh, you filled up that application.
I think
you're lucky. I didn't.
I think a lot of people, or word has spread around school where it's like, okay, well, like I think a lot of students claim that our school was like disadvantaged, but I don't know. But it was one of those things where you could apply for it, and it was like a no loss sort of situation. If you don't get it, you don't get it. But if you get it, then you do, right? But in my case, we had like financial hardship and stuff like that. So and it was kind of tough for my brother and I growing up, especially with like just one sole income earner as well, paying the bills and everything like that. So it just sort of made it hard for us, but like, despite everything, like I somehow got my head into check, at the end of like high school, and when I hit uni, I started to like double down and focused a lot better. And I think over time, like you develop this sort of like discipline and persistence, and just doing the slow grind and keeping your head down, focused, like not going out partying. Well, for me, I don't really party too much.
But that's an important word, grind. Honestly, grind.
Yeah.
It's we learn how to grind.
Yeah.
We learned that hard work. Pays off.
Yeah.
It's different now.
It's totally different now because like I think with what you see in social media and everything like that, like everyone wants instant gratification, and everyone thinks that it's just easy to get to like social media influence status.
Yeah, swipe left, swipe right, double tap here, share this, and get instant, fame and success. It's not like that, right?
It seems like that no one wants to do that grind anymore to get to where they need to. So
after you got settled and after you started, getting your head, correct and down that path, how did that lead you? Like, where are you at now? And have you, reflecting back, are you enjoying it? Did you enjoy that ride? And what are your challenges now?
Yeah. So basically built my career off of like software development, and I guess looking back at my past, like I think I've done pretty well, especially given the circumstances of my background growing up. Like I know that perhaps like the methods or the ways that I've sort of learned and picked up skills along the way maybe wouldn't be conventional, but like I think what helped also is just to have a bit of like street smart as well, just to know like what sort of shortcuts you can sort of get in order to pick up the information that you need to then like to bring it to your work and and execute.
But your parents would have not known what a software developer is, and probably till this date have a small understanding of it. So that means that's a bit unconventional anyway, right?
Well, my parents first thought that IT was like software programming is IT and stuff, where you just dabble with computers, but that's really not the case.
You're really like playing, they think you're probably like playing games for work or something.
Well, probably. Like I mean, when I was growing up, I was on the computer all day playing games anyway, so they probably linked the two together.
Just going back to in high school, your grades are dipping.
Yeah.
Did your parents kind of influence you on what subjects you did in order for your grades to dip, or was there a reason why it dipped down?
Well, the only thing that they focused on was mathematics.
Yeah.
Because they thought that was like the key to success. But given like with what they know, like I think the word around our sort of family, like it was sort of ingrained into our family that if you know mathematics, then you're probably going to do well in every other subject and stuff. But in reality, like I didn't do, like I was pretty shit at maths, and I still am shit at maths at the moment. Like
but to be a programmer, you kind of need the mathematics in order to know the logic.
You do, like
it.
You probably would need like to know like things like sorting algorithms and like log functions and all that kind of like jazz and stuff. But in reality, when it comes to programming, like you don't tend to dabble with that sort of stuff.
There's software out there to do that, right?
Yeah. Now there is, but back then all the hard work was done by developers. So it's all easier now. It was all automated.
Before it was like, what do you call it? Like raw programming, like language based.
I don't know. I would just say logic based. Like if that and do
like really code based and
like I think you mean like the low level assembly sort
low
of
level assembly. I learned that in uni and I hated that.
Did you?
I hated that those subjects.
Well, like I guess like that was just a little bit of an insight into like my career, but curious to know like how like what led to your paths and what.
I'll tell you about my one. So with my schooling, I think my parents ingrained that I should be doing mathematics. So I think back in their hometown, mathematics was quite core. They believe it was like the universal language. It probably still is. So I focus on math. Not necessarily mean I loved it, but it's with numbers. It was easy for me to articulate what they were trying to say. But I think year 10, they wanted me to do physics and chemistry, moving me to the doctor.
I remember that.
Yeah.
You did a lot of tutoring in maths.
A lot of tutoring.
Literally 3 units and extra tutoring on weekends and after school. And then you started moving into physics.
Yeah. So I did physics, chemistry. So they told me to do that because they believe it may help me in the future.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. So my grades failed because of physics and chemistry, something that I didn't like.
Yeah.
But it also allowed me to do one subject or 2 subjects that I wanted, because how you have 2 units, you have up to 11 or 12 units. So I had 1 unit in hospitality. So that's like more the cooking. That's where my passion in cooking, because my family or my cousins and auntie, they have restaurants in Canberra, and I kind of worked there. But then going back to to where my study has been, the other 2 units I did was business studies. Because I wasn't really interested in all the computing and all that as much, even though it was there, it was more to play games. Other from learning what computer studies like electronics and all that don't interest me as much. So I did the doctor path, but also the business path. And the way from what I can understand, what my mum was telling me is she was more of the business-minded person, whereas my dad was more the safer side. So I tried to see both worlds, both perspective on, who I have, and trying to think, am I more of my mum or am I more like my dad? So in the future, even though my grades fell down, because I was good at math, I did 3-unit math, it boosted up my I guess my UAI or TER at that time.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that bad in that sense. But looking back at how I am now, I'm using more mathematics than I appreciate when I studied, math in 3-unit. I never thought that I'll be using it. But I'm seeing how it represents everything that we do in life. We need to know certain forms.
Yeah, look, I think English and maths, from my perspective anyway, English and maths is key.
Yeah, they're the key.
It's foundation.
Yeah.
It's bread and butter. It's what you need to survive in the real world. Your biology, your physics, your chemistry, all that stuff. I don't see any real world application to it, to be honest. And the last 15 years I've been working, I haven't used any of that other than really good English, really good communication skills, and that teaches you how to hustle as well, and maths, adding it all up, doing your taxes, doing a proposal for a customer, all that stuff. It's maths and English.
It's funny that I find that that in high school they don't teach you like the fundamentals, I think, which is like business and I think finance as well. It's one of those very interesting topics that I feel like is like needed more than ever, like growing up.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if they do teach you a theory, they don't teach you how to apply it. And application is key. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can know how to fix a car, like in theory, but until you pick up the tool and the spanners and the wrenches and the oils and stuff, you'll never know how to do it. And I think that's something that they really need to develop on. The real world application.
I think that's where our parents come in, because my dad taught me how to fix a car and do certain mechanics.
Yeah, I know, but did you sit in front of him with a textbook and a classroom and a whiteboard, and he was writing it all to you, or he said, Nath, you're going to get straight on the tools and this is how I'm going to show you to do it?
Yeah, straight on the tools. So,
see? Yeah.
That was like me as well. Yeah.
But personal finance, it's not taught in schools, so that's another big issue that people are growing up. Once they are independent, they wouldn't know what to do. They wouldn't know what debt is, all that. So it has been an issue. Now I'm seeing more and more personal blogs out there and podcasts talking about and educating kids, and but it's all taught by books and not really in school. So I think what school is trying to teach you is more, I guess, educational and professional. So they want you to work in, stuck in a rat race kind of thing. They don't want you to think kind of outside and, see and chase the wealth. They should focus on building up your core, I guess, attributes and develop yourself, as opposed to facing the real world.
Yeah.
So imagine you learn like personal finance, so what if you learned it in high school? How's that going to help you later on in terms of finding out what your passion is, kind of developing yourself in areas where you're still trying to find yourself and what you want to do, your passion, that personal finance may come later on.
Yeah.
Education is a whole new topic,
I know.
And I feel like it's a very important topic as well, and you can't touch more on it. But I think education, education is key, but it's not the only thing to happiness and success. There's so much more.
Yeah, which gets me sort of thinking, like, what is the definition of the safe path for like the younger generation these days? So perhaps like not our generation, perhaps the generation like after us, and also the millennials as well.
Yeah,
I don't know, like from my like sort of like shallow observations and stuff, like I think the key to the safe path is like having at least like importance, having a voice, and being able to influence others, and making their thoughts, count, and their sort of visions count as well,
Yeah. I mean, having recently worked at a university, there are still a lot of intake for university. So traditionally, the values of education, going to university, getting a degree is still there. But the dropout rates are significantly higher as well. A lot higher than now than 10, 15, 20 years ago. So that's probably painting a picture as well as to either the students finding the grinding hard, or they're really going to uni and realizing that that's not the only way, and there's other things to do, and there's other, experiences to have, or there's other avenues to take as well, So it is changing. It is changing, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. It is changing. I think they're more, I guess, how would you say it? They're more hungry than us. Well, they're more hungry than me, that's for sure. So at work, I talk to quite a few younger people, like 10 years younger. I got Lynn's cousin who would WhatsApp me and ask me, stuff that I've done, either in personal finance or in wealth, and other, younger people who wants to move into project management and learn things. And the way how I see them, they do voice themselves quite a lot using, social media and talking about it. But at the same time, they love like embracing it and telling people what they've achieved. They go, to expo, they do volunteer work, they do charity work. So they're not doing the traditional, growing themselves in learning textbook. They're actually growing by getting other people to tell them, to teach them, and doing volunteer work by doing practical stuff at the same time. So that's what I'm seeing, because they're asking me these questions which I have no idea, like I would never ask this when I'm in my 20s, and they're asking me something that I would ask later on. So I'm surprised they're embracing it so early nowadays with all the information out there.
Yeah.
From my perspective on what the safe path now is I don't think there is a safe path now. I don't think there should be a safe path. I think we should be rewriting the safe path is, and it should be the happiness path. What's going to make you happy, because the safe was really get a job, settle down, build a family, buy a house, and that doesn't always lead to happiness, and I think I'm a true reflection of that. I've got a job right now, a really good job, a corporate job, and I'm paying really well. I'm not completely happy, but my kids are the happiness. My experiences in life are the happiness. The extracurricular activities that I do are my happiness. So I think reinventing the safe path to be the happiness path, and getting kids these days to try new things, experience the world, meet new people, face different challenges, and rather than spend 3 years of uni, just spend 3 years doing whatever they want to do differently, is, I think, a better path to experience. And if I could go back 15, 20 years, that's exactly what I'd do, rather than try to rush into the education, finish all my TAFE, finish all the uni, get that job. I think if that would be a lesson, I'd get them to grind more and try life a bit more.
Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on about instead of like following the safe path, it be like creating the happiness path, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think for my takeaway, I guess, or for what I would probably like, in terms of advice, what I would give to others is like if you're young, right, just like go out there, do whatever it is, allow yourself to fail, allow yourself to experience new things, because like when you're like young 20s and stuff like that, like you're still trying to find what you're looking for, you're trying to find, your specialty or what makes you happy and what gives you fulfillment, like the last thing that you want is, basically to be working in like a job where, where what you're doing is constantly like, like servicing a loan or paying off, like debt or that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Because
sure.
because that can only like motivate you so far, and by the time you hit like 30s or mid 30s even, then you start hitting a thing where it's like a midlife crisis, and I guess like for me, like I've sort of like sort of fell into that sort of trap, where I start questioning whether this is something I want to do for the rest of my life.
Me too.
Yeah, I think we're all guilty of that, to be honest.
I find it more of a journey, so I don't mind nutting out or the grinding and working with someone. At least it gives me the experience, and talking to different people from different aspects of life. I don't expect my kids to follow the same path as me, but I like to, I guess, tell my kids, what I've done and what I've learned on the way. I like them to live their own fulfillment life and make their own decision. I don't want to dictate and tell them what they should be doing. So in a way, the way how we were brought up in the corporate world, that may not be necessarily a bad thing, because it kind of taught us what what our true potential is and where we should go. If we didn't experience that, we didn't know that where we would find happiness. We should be doing our own thing or doing other stuff. So
Yeah.
imagine you missed all that. You didn't know how corporate world was, and went straight to being wealthy and
Oh no,
doing your
no,
own stuff.
I'm not. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's absolutely a lesson. It's definitely a good lesson to have.
Yeah.
But don't get stuck into it. Don't get into that pattern of comfort, of certainty. Of a path that you can see because I'm definitely been stuck in that path for a bit longer than I wanted to. And that's definitely not making me happy. I don't want to do this forever. And I'm not saying the kids don't do this path. Experiment it, try it, fail, learn, all that stuff. But don't get stuck into that routine. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely valid points. Yeah.
And I think these days I'm noticing that rather than having comfort and significance and all that sort of stuff, it should be around growth. Personal growth, spiritual growth. It should be about connection as well. Connection to your roots, connection to your family, connection to your friends, connection to your kids. All that stuff means so much more than money and beautiful holidays and big houses and expensive cars. That's only sort of temporary happiness, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the accumulation of belongings and stuff. Like it can only it might give you like a very very like temporary sort of like moments or spurs of happiness and stuff. But eventually, like what people continue seeking out for is fulfillment.
Oh yeah, definitely fulfillment. And that's short-term fulfillment.
Yeah.
And
Like for example, you buy a Ferrari. It's like, okay, it's nice and stuff, but but is there anyone to sort of share it with, or or can you create memories? I don't know.
no, you can't. You can't. And you're constantly going to realize that you're competing with other people all the time,
Yeah.
and you're never going to win. There's always going to be someone better than you, richer than you, stronger than you. If you're gonna compete with other people and you're gonna share, your wealth amongst your friends and show off and stuff, you're never gonna be happy.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm realizing that now, and I think I'm making my steps to really change and connect with the growth and love and connection side of my life. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's what we should all be doing, focusing ourselves and not others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yep.
I guess we'll probably just leave it at that. I guess until for next time. Unless if there's anything else that you guys have to add.
No, that was really
Yeah.
good. I think this is the sort of discussions that we all should be having.
I think so too.
And
Yeah.
especially at this time of life, that we've got a few battle scars and we've had a few experiences, and we sort of can give a lot of lessons to the younger generation as well. And
Yeah.
and
there's quite a number of us, that have grown up in the same area, and we've all had different sort of experiences. But I think collectively as a community, we all have valuable lessons that can be passed down to others, to sort of do some really good positive, can add some positive difference, to our younger generations, that they can make this world a better place, And through this podcast, and even though that this is the first one, but if this is information that can help inspire and encourage others to do great and wonderful things, and just to sort of have a think of what they're doing now, and to rewrite their lives for the better, then by all means, we've walked away just doing like a positive thing.
Yeah, and it's all about making an impact.
Yeah.
If this makes an impact, if you can find a job or you can find something that you want to do, a passion that makes an impact to the world, then that is the path to happiness, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
It's very hard to, I guess, if we were to give advice to the young generation now, it's a bit hard to tell us and put ourselves in their shoes, because imagine you were the parents from back then. How would you tell yourself now on what to do?
Yeah, very tough.
Yeah.
It is very tough. We never thought about fulfillment and growth and all that.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand that until just in the last couple of years when more coaches and life coaches were coming up. Back then, I thought what I was doing was normal. Growing up, learning stuff, doing the
That's
grind.
so true.
And then you guys might
That's so
thinking,
true.
why are you doing that? It's like people don't understand. Each other. We didn't understand what we're doing was right. Even though these life coaches came up, they kind of made a terminology or a little occupation for those. I'm going to call myself a life coach because I see what you're doing is really good and you're growing. I'm going to help you and learn from you what makes you, what motivates you, and then they use that as information that they develop. I help you, guided you, and this is how it is. And then you come then be like, wow, that's what a life coach does, but not realizing that you've already done that previously in the past. You've gone through that journey. It's just that now we're seeing it being documented down as a new, I guess, philosophy or, you know, a new path.
Yeah, it is a philosophy. It's a way of life. It's it's retraining the brain. It's, you know, development of the mind, you know, and that sort of stuff you don't learn in university, you don't learn in corporate, you know, and I think it's great to keep doing, you know.
Yeah,
it's definitely something that we should be focusing on.
Definitely. Very good point. Yeah.
Thanks, Peter.
All right,
Thanks, Peter.
That was a good session.
Thanks for participating with me, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Cheers.
See ya.